Next item on our agenda is Director of Finance and Operations Report, and I'd ask permission to go to Section E, number 2, Tanker Truck Fire Department, since they are here to make a presentation. All those in favor of moving the agenda signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. Opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. So we have here our Fire Chief Sean Rowland, Chief Engineer.
How are you? I got Jim Graywood tonight. He's our Chief Engineer.
Okay, we just want to thank you, Sean, for your efforts over the blizzard in the past 4 or 5 days. And you weren't here when we made a little presentation to Warren Connors and mentioned you and the police and human services, public works, etc. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just want to give a little background on this here,
Good.
and then we'll have them chime in. On the 22nd of January, we opened up bids for a new tanker truck for the fire department, and we received 3 bids. And the 3 bids are, there's a document handed out at your place which outlines the 3 bids. And they are from Yankee Fire and Rescue, New England Fire Equipment, and Northeastern Fire. And the 2 low bids, or the 2 bids that are, there's one bid that's much higher than the others, which is the New England Fire, $331,000. And then there was a bid from Northeastern Fire, which is a U.S. tanker, which is our current vehicle. We have another tanker, and that's also a U.S. tanker. So it would be the same type of vehicle. That was $279,411. And then there was a bid from Yankee Fire and Rescue, which was $263,588. And so the recommendation is to purchase the U.S. tanker bid. And what I'd like Sean to describe is, once I'd asked them to do a sort of an apples-to-apples comparison of the 2 vehicles, because to make sure that all of, to compare every aspect of it, because sometimes the specs aren't 100%, So if you can explain to them.
Right. What we did is we came up with a generic spec to go out the bid. And we basically, the spec that when we bought the last tanker truck, I think it was about 4 years ago now, we basically mirrored that truck, because that truck works really well for us. And when we go back a little bit more, we're replacing a 1978, used to be an old garbage truck, which holds 4,250 gallons of water presently on now. What we're looking to do is we're actually looking at downsizing to a 3,000 gallon tanker. Reason being doesn't the extra water help you and this and that, and what we've learned by doing training in tanker drills with other towns is we could actually make an extra loop with the truck compared to the old tanker. We could actually move more water by about the 3rd round once we fill up, so it's more efficient to even go with a 3,000 gallon tanker compared to a 4,000 gallon tanker. So we've proven that fact. The tanker that we got 4 years ago works phenomenal for us, does exactly what we needed to do. So what we did is we basically mirrored that bid with one exception. We went from a 500 gallon pump on the truck that we presently have, and we increased that to a 1,000 gallon per minute pump to, if we had to use it as a backup pumper to pump into an attack engine, we have the capability of doing that, which we found out is very beneficial, because we had an issue a year ago where we actually used the other truck for it. Just the pump wasn't big enough to do what we needed it to do, so we felt that it was in our best interest, the town's best interest, to increase that pump size. So that's one of the big things that we've changed going forward. Everything else is basically the same. When we compared, we looked at the Spiel bid. The Spiel bid was number one. It was also $50,000 more than anybody else, and we didn't really feel that we needed a truck like that. So we went back between Rosenbauer and U.S. Tanker. U.S. Tanker is the one we currently have in the building. There is a price difference between U.S. Tanker and Rosenbauer, but when we started going through the bid, there were some big things that when we contacted Rosenbauer and came up with numbers to compare apples to apples between, they had a different engine in than what US Tanker had. US Tanker had a little bit bigger of an engine. US Tanker also was a stainless steel body compared to an 1/8 inch aluminum body. Why stainless steel now is getting more and more popular, it's a little bit more money, it's roughly an $8,000 upcharge for it, is because the chemicals the state is especially using on the roadway today, 1/8 inch aluminum wouldn't hold up, and it only comes with a 7-year warranty on the body, where US Tanker with a stainless steel body is giving us a 30-year warranty on it. Now, these are trucks, fire trucks in town, we usually tend to hold for at least 25 to 30 years. So if we have a 30-year warranty on that, on the body and chassis, it's going to be in our best interest to move forward with that. If we did go with aluminum, to get a 30-year warranty on 1/8 inch aluminum is an $8,500 upcharge. So it was actually cheaper to go with the stainless body and get the warranty that way than it was to purchase it.
Would have been nicer to have that on engine 3, wouldn't it?
Right. So now that's a steel body. Our other engines that we...
You know, what Selectman Kennedy was talking about, an engine 3, which is an older vehicle. Ilya Alexiadis, chairman of the Fire Commission. Sorry to interrupt, Chief. But what Selectman Kennedy was talking about, we just spent thousands of dollars to repair rot on engine 3, one of our older vehicles. And so that's why the stainless steel body is really key for the longevity of the vehicle.
The other engines we've previously bought in the past are 3/16 extruded aluminum, which will hold up a lot better than the 1/8 inch aluminum. So aluminum is not necessarily a bad thing. Aluminum is lighter than stainless, but depending on the type of aluminum you get and everything else, it makes a difference. But we feel for the tanker moving forward, we want to go with we want to stay with the stainless steel, and that's what we currently have now. The other big thing is between the Rosenbauer and the US Tanker, there were no crosslays on the top of the truck, meaning a crosslay is where hose gets packed, where you can pull a hose off and you can have it discharge, you can open the hose up. The reason why that's important is if without any crosslays or the discharges that are required, the truck is not NFPA compliant. So we want to try to stay with that NFPA compliance, and that's another big reason why. That also helps with our ISO rating with the town for homeowners insurance and everything else.
And for people who don't understand, NFPA is National Fire Protection
Agency.
Yeah.
The purpose of this is to deliver water to a fire, right?
That's right. It's strictly a tanker. It goes, we drop big portable ponds, 3,000, 4,000 gallon, basically ponds in the middle of the street, and these trucks come up, they dump the water, and then they take off. So they're on site for very little, and they're going to fill up. So since we only have 10% of hydrants in town, the truck is very vital to how we have to fight a fire in the majority of the town. Let's see, there's a couple other big things. The US Tanker has 2 vents on the top of the truck. So if anybody knows, when you flush your toilet, you have a vent. The water goes down the toilet nice and smooth, or your sink. If the sink backs up, there's something clogged. The more air you allow into the top of the truck as the water's coming out, the faster the water's coming out. So the US Tanker has 2 6-inch vents, where the Rosenbauer only has 1 vent. So the water will come out slower out of the Rosenbauer truck compared to the US Tanker. The engine brakes are different between the 2 trucks. We run the Jacobs brake with everything we have in the fire department. It works out really well for us. Also, the other big point is we want to try to stay as standard as possible. So we already have one of these trucks in-house, and it's easier to train people on something we've already have. So, I mean, there's going to be some differences since the truck is already 4 years old, but for the most part, the truck is going to be standard, and it's basically one coincides with the other, and to get parts for both is going to be pretty easy, rather than chasing this vendor over here for parts and everything else. The other big thing is US Tanker stationed out of Cheshire, where Rosenbauer, if we needed service, we'd have to take it out of state. So that would add to the cost to have somebody come down, pick the truck up, bring it up there, and then bring it back. So there is charges. So the committee got together and we believe the U.S. tanker is the one to go with. And when you add all these options in and we compare apples to apples, we're only in the area of probably $800 to $1,600 in difference between the two trucks. And even at that, there are some cosmetic things that are not included on the Rosenbauer that are included on the U.S. tanker bid. So our recommendation to you is that we move forward to go with the U.S. tanker bid. And the number was $279,411.
Right. There's also some funding for
additional equipment.
Yeah, additional equipment brings the total to $287 for the total funding of the package. And currently the town has $124,000. You'll see the memo there. $789 in the tanker truck reserve. So there's a shortfall of $162,211. So there are a few ways to address that shortfall. And what we're recommending is to transfer that funding from the ladder truck reserve, which currently has $162,800. But with the request of reimbursing that funding into the next year's budget cycle.
Right, from
back
July
to
1.
You're right.
Would you repeat the value of the ladder truck reserve fund, please?
It is $162,800 around. That's within a few dollars.
No.
Is that in our packet?
Oh, that's the difference.
That's the balance.
Yeah, but it's almost the same.
Somewhere in here?
So that would
No, it's not in there.
Sorry.
Yeah, no.
that would deplete that
It
reserve.
depletes the reserve, correct.
So
the other
we
way
need
to do it is
just a line item transfer over.
Right, this would be, there's a transfer on later in the package to address it. The transfer from the ladder.
Yeah, that's why I
truck.
asked if there was a.
There's
in
a
our
transfer,
packet.
yeah, there is,
in
yeah,
our
there's a
packet,
transfer
okay.
later in the package to
I
address
thought I
that.
saw it, but I can't find it. Okay.
So, if that's the route you wanted to take, that would be how you would address that. If not, then we would have to come up with some other funding mechanism.
I have a question about reimbursing the ladder truck reserve then.
That would have to go through the budget cycle, but that would be the intent.
Well, I understand that, but does this somehow tie the town's hands? Is there still an option to only partially fund the reimbursement, I guess is what I'm asking. Does this commit the town to a full reimbursement?
Yes.
Well, no, it's not a
it doesn't commit.
request.
It doesn't recommit.
You mean, you're talking about now or for next year?
For the FY14 budget.
It'll be a request that have to be considered in the budget process.
Okay.
If I may, our current, and Tony, you can correct me, our current budget request for fiscal year 14 includes funding the balance of the tanker truck.
It does. That's correct.
No, I- yeah, no,
There's
I-
already a
and
request for
also
that.
We've been talking about this tanker for
Yeah.
years, and
Yes.
I'm familiar, and I don't.
That's
Our
what is
budgeting
it?
has had presumed a financing and spreading it out, and also we presumed a long-term plan for the.
I'm just.
That's correct. There is currently a request for the tanker truck in the next year's
Right.
budget.
In the amount of
$175,000.
This is last.
No, I'm familiar with the converted garbage truck, and we've been talking about this for years, and I don't have any issue with going forward with the tanker truck. I'm just concerned about the budget process and the idea that we're moving next year's money, and so I had a couple
So,
questions.
No, this
So I
is,
guess
this
you
is
would
money
take
on
the
hand.
money
This is money
from
on
the
hand.
the
I
ladder
think his
truck this
concern is
year.
if the money's
And
going
then
to go
next
back into
year,
the budget cycle.
take the money
That'll be
from
part of the
tanker truck
cycle.
and put it back.
The Board of
The ladder
Selectmen will
truck?
consider that,
This
the
is-
Board of Finance will
But I
consider.
do want to emphasize that we are going to start moving forward on the ladder truck, and we have been moving forward, and we're going to be coming back to the board because we do have some questions
That's your question.
with the board
Does it obligate us
on the
ladder truck? That's-
on the ladder truck, how we're going to move forward here, and before we start going crazy, and we can get on the budget, we can get on the agenda for a meeting down the road in the next month or two, so we can talk about it. But we definitely need to move forward on the ladder truck. I don't have a problem because these trucks, if we were to order this truck, say tomorrow, this truck is a 10-month build time, so we won't see this truck probably to next winter sometime, if or the end of the year. If we A ladder truck, it's basically the same thing. Ladder truck, we're probably talking 10 months to a year out, so we do have some time, but
This money wouldn't leave us until sometime October next year, 2014.
well, we have to pay for with the cab and chassis come in, we have to pay for that. That's the way it works. And then once the truck is complete, then we pay for the body, the pump,
So approximately.
and that end.
Cabin
I know there's
chassis.
some.
I think the cabin chassis comes in within 120
Yeah.
days.
Right.
And
There's
then
some savings from that too, by paying that up front.
120 or 180 days
Right.
is the cabin chassis,
Right,
and then
yeah.
the body is after that. But once the cabin chassis come in, we pay for that. By doing that, there is a cost savings by paying for it as it comes in of a couple $1,000.
So the chances are, it won't even be in this fiscal year that we'll be spending this money. 4 months is June.
That's right. Yeah. That's a chance.
So.
We're not going to spend the entire amount by July. The entire amount would be due.
Well, even 120 days is 4 months.
But in order to
But we can't even order the truck without
in order to
funding.
order the truck,
have
we need to do a purchase order. In order to do the purchase order, we have to have all the money.
Okay.
Unless
It's gonna be allocated.
Allocated but not
Right.
spent, okay.
right.
Correct.
Okay.
So we think by doing this, we save the financing charges on this vehicle
Right.
by temporarily
Right.
using
Right.
reserve. It just saves the town money.
And then as far as next year's budget, that will go to,
Goes through
through
the
our
process.
process.
Goes through your
Board of
process.
Selectmen,
for
Board of
next year,
Finance.
right, and then the voters at the town meeting.
Correct,
So
exactly.
that's the way to go. Okay.
I don't know, how do we move forward from here?
Well,
So
there's
they
a
approve
request,
they
we're
approve
gonna
the
act on
bid.
that.
They approve the bid.
Yeah.
If they approve the bid, then the vendor is selected. Then you do the funding transfer, which would be tonight and next Thursday at the Board of Finance. And then after that, then you could do the purchase order for the.
Okay, so
Would you
we're
like-
looking to move.
Would
So
you like
Lawrence,
a
I guess,
motion?
to your point, if
Whoops.
you've got, and I still can't find the transfer, but maybe it's in one of these packets, but if we're gonna, if they're asking for a transfer from the ladder account to
Right.
the tank account
Right.
this year,
Right.
and we've got funding next year for the tanker truck,
It'll change
would the
the-
tanker truck money get transferred?
No, what I would do is I would change in the budget process, the appropriation request to a ladder truck.
Right, but it's a request, and my
Right.
concern is that this
It zeroes it out.
raises expectations that the ladder truck reserve will be made whole, and I am uncomfortable promising that, and not because I don't think we don't need a ladder truck,
Promise.
and I understand we need a tanker truck,
Not
but the
promising.
governor,
It's gotta go through the process,
Then
it can't
apply-
be promised.
it's about raising expectations.
But Lauren, I think, okay, can I interpret?
Please.
To make sure I understand what you're saying? My understanding of what Lawrence is saying is that by virtue of this transfer, it sort of zeroes out the ladder truck issue.
does.
It wipes that slate completely clean.
And I just hope everyone
And
understands.
just so that everybody understands that, that's what you're saying, okay? That'll be $10.
You'll have to transfer it, so.
Those are my translation services.
I think we all understand, it has to go through the budget process.
There's no
Right.
but you're like at zero at that
Right.
point. We're hoping
That's-
it will
that's
the
pass.
question.
The only way to do it is to finance the tanker
No,
truck, which is.
and we're not arguing with you.
Right,
We're
right,
just-
this is the
We
right way.
can do that. We can lease purchase the vehicle again.
That would be the other option.
So
We
it's
can
a
lease
fair
purchase
concern
it
with
if that's the way we want to go.
And again, I'm not challenging
Right.
the need for
No,
this.
no,
I'm not challenging the need for a
no,
hybrid
I
truck.
understand. I mean, I don't want to go on the record and run the risk of not having a ladder truck continue to be funded either, because that's a vital piece too. We're just trying to space these out so we're not hitting the budget hard every year
Right.
here. So.
Right, but we're all, this week in particular, we're sensitive to the impact of the state budget on municipal funding programs, and so all of the requests that have come in from your department and from every department have to go through this process, and just to be abundantly clear that
This is a priority in your department. You know, we have 10% fire hydrants. We need to deliver water if we have a fire. So, I mean, it's.
Yeah, Yeah, and the existing truck is
the
really on its last leg.
yeah, the truck has no heat. We have excessive rot. We have a lot. So
It's
it's
an antique.
Yeah,
It's a
no, that's just gotta
1978
go.
truck.
Hey, we got our money's worth.
It's back to trash.
It is trash.
actually the ladder truck's in 1976.
But the point
Or
that's
that.
being made is that when you come in, and whether it's next month or 3 months or whatever, to talk about the ladder truck, there's no money in the bucket, so to speak. It's like
Right.
starting over.
Right.
Right?
Right.
That's all,
That's true.
that's what's being said.
So, I mean, we're going to leave it up to you.
Right.
What we think. I mean, we put the option out there so we can save the town some money on the financing.
And the quantifying.
So we want to do it. Yeah,
If
we
we have
want
an
to do
issue
it.
with it, we can, I have no problem lease purchasing. We lease purchased all the other trucks in the past.
There's a difference of having $125,000 for a $250,000 truck and having $160,000 for a
$1 million
truck.
I know.
Million plus.
You know,
Right.
that's a big.
I may have blinked when you said it, but what you're saving the town by doing it this way, as opposed to a lease purchase, is that quantified? Do we know that number? Did you say it and I didn't hear it?
I don't have it specifically quantified now. I didn't.
But there is a saving, we
but
know
there would be savings and interest.
The order of
I'm sure if you pay-
magnitude is,
Probably if you
Tens
did
of
a 3-year.
thousands?
Yeah, probably if you did a
Okay.
3-year lease.
well,
sure.
it's important that we know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that number again is what?
It would be in the tens
Ballpark.
of thousands. Sure.
Okay, so the first item we have to take up is to award the bid for the tanker truck. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so let me test your minds, as they say in our.
U.S. tanker.
I would entertain a motion to award the bid to Northeastern Fire as set forth in the bid price memorandum of February 12, 2013.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Now, is there a transfer?
There is.
Request for a transfer?
Yep.
Okay.
It's just a one page. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just one page with it.
So, we're now taking up line item transfer number 2013-17 in the amount of $162,211. And this will be taken from fire vehicles ladder truck reserve transfer to fire vehicles tanker truck reserve. So I entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I just want to say one other thing. By moving forward, just so everybody knows, the tanker that we have currently, we're looking to, we're going to either scrap it or sell it or whatever, so there is going to be money coming back on that end. But just so everybody knows, the tanker that we currently have, which is tanker 8, that we're looking to replace, is the maintenance is going to go up really big over the next year or two, because the truck has rot, the truck has some major issues done to it. So when we're at that point where starting to fix stuff on that truck is going to get very costly. And we've seen that with some of the other trucks that are aging and the fleet's getting older. So it is, we're really at that point. If we need to start replacing some of these vehicles, because once we start carrying into some stuff, it's going to lead to other things, just like we saw with engine 3. I mean, we had some body wrap that started at $3,800, and before you knew it, we were at over $25,000 to fix the truck. So, I mean, these trucks are aging, and the product that's going down on the road, especially in the wintertime, is highly corrosive, and it's really taking a toll on the brakes, the cans, the body, paint, everything else, lines. So this is really a wise move to start doing it. Otherwise, we're gonna start throwing good money after bad. So
And our challenge will be to keep the existing tanker on the road for the next 2 months, 8 to 10 months while we're waiting for delivery on this
Yeah.
one. And
I
do
don't
that.
remember what year the bar report said this truck was supposed to be replaced, but I think it was a while ago.
it was back in like
long,
96.
long overdue, 'cause it's a
96.
70-something vehicle,
Right.
right? So that study that we did way back when, that we're trying
And
to catch up with.
the newer trucks are more
Right.
safe. It's not
Right, we did.
it's
Right.
not as top heavy. I mean, you're carrying 3,000
Right.
gallons of water. I mean, right now we're carrying 4,000 gallons of water. We're talking almost 60,000 pounds of weight, and the sloshes around and everything else. So it's definitely a wise thing to do.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
we want to thank you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. All right, Tony, this is your report, the monthly report.
Okay. The monthly report is a, through January 2013, has a projected budgetary surplus of just under $200,000, which projects our fund balance to about 11.22% of our budget for $4.7 million. So a couple of highlights we've gone over before was our revenue sharing grant distribution for the year. It's about $60,000 in state revenue. Department revenues are projected to experience a surplus of about $38,000. There's some items in there, conveyance fees, town clerk fees, zoning permits and building permits, and transfer station fees are all projecting to be ahead of budget, cumulatively about $108,000. That includes a SWIROC distribution, which is later on in your agenda here, about $14,000, which is from recycling revenue. Contrast that to a shortfall in revenues from the golf course of about $70,000. So that's where you get your $38,000 surplus for that department of revenue. Those are the highlights on revenues, really. Under expenditures, we had the deficit of workers' compensation of $58,000. I actually put a funding request from contingency for that this month, so that we are, when we look at our contingency balance, we know exactly how much is in there, and there's no math to figure out, well, we may have this expense. It's not looking like at this point, I'm not sure the police budget will be able to handle some of that or all of that, but if they do, an option would be to transfer that back to contingency later on in the year. So we'll keep an eye on that. Amity, there's a surplus of $85,000. We have discussed that previously. Waste management should have a surplus of about $20,000 due to some tonnage reduction in comparison to our budget. Mostly in solid waste, a little bit recycling, but mostly solid waste. And we have completed our reimbursement applications to FEMA for Sandy. We are anticipating 75% of all eligible expenditures, including public works, police, fire department, human services, and the volunteer time of the fire department will go towards our match. So it's actually real dollars. Will go towards our 25% match. Not on here, but of recent event is the storm we just had, and just preliminarily, I would project that we probably spend at least $50,000 on it.
How much?
50,000.
50?
Yeah, between contractors and overtime and expenditures related to overtime. There's payroll, taxes, that sort of thing. But what for your next meeting?
50-75% reimbursement.
There's a 48-hour period. Currently, we're being told we will be getting 75% reimbursement on. So what we have to do is figure out where our biggest exposure was in that 48-hour period. In the meantime, hopefully some of the bigger cities that have had a much more difficult time of this will have some success in possibly lengthening that time or changing that. I'm not sure if that will happen, but
Now, is that
that's our
50?
hope.
Does that 50,000 include damage to the trucks?
That includes, no, it probably doesn't. So you probably have to add some to that. That's just my calculation of.
Could be interesting to see what that's going to cost.
There's
us
probably going to
as
be some damage.
vehicles that were down, what happened to them, and
Yeah, so you'd have to add that to that.
okay. You think Warren could have that for us at the next meeting?
Sure, oh, absolutely, yeah. We'll have it all detailed by the next meeting.
Is that reimbursable also in the 75%?
No, not the specific expenditures. What you get is for every FEMA reimbursement event, you get a charge per hour for vehicles. Similar to, so it would be X dollars per hour for every vehicle you use to go towards gas, vehicle breakdowns, insurance, that sort of thing.
And the 48-hour period is,
Of your choosing.
we get to choose it?
Right.
Oh,
And the eligibility for a 75%, that's a result of the president's declaration?
Correct.
Declaration,
Right. Correct.
So the hope will be that'll extend the 48-hour
Hopefully to
period.
right 96 or 72, because sometimes I've seen it 72 hours in some of our past events. Have been
Right.
72.
All right, any other questions? If not, then we can get on to funding requests. Then excuse me, tax refunds, and you have a memo from Pat Prisco dated February 2013. We have personal property refunds totaling $138.28. Real estate refunds totaling $22,181.39. And motor vehicle refunds totaling $422.19. For a total of $22,741.86 for refunds. So I entertain a motion to approve those requests for tax refunds.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next are funding requests, the first of which is line item transfer number 1213-13, $1,500.
This is just a transfer to cover legal ad expenditures in TPD legal ad account.
Okay, so I entertain a motion to approve line item transfer number 1213-13, the amount of $1,500.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is line item transfer number 1213-14, $4,500.
This is a transfer from a revenue account, and in the town planning and zoning, oftentimes when there's an application, there are certain studies that are required. The applicant pays the fee, and we then incur the expenditure. So this is to transfer those revenues to their expense account to cover the traffic consultant for the Ezra Academy proposed relocation to the JCC.
So we're actually doing it? They're not required, we're not asking them to provide us with a traffic?
We are, the TPZ is retaining the consultant to review the plans.
They probably have their own traffic consultant.
Yeah, they'll have their own
They're
traffic
paying us us to hire our traffic consultant.
Correct.
Oh, they're paying us to hire.
check.
Right.
Okay.
It says
Correct.
on this,
Yeah,
they have a
right.
check for $4,500.
Right, they're paying
from
us
Ezra.
for our traffic
To
Okay,
cover
I'm
this.
sorry, I
Right.
misunderstood
Yep.
that.
First,
Okay.
they're gonna see if they agree with our consultant says, and then they're gonna go hire their own.
Yeah, okay.
Would be my guess.
That would be a smart way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so I
never mind.
entertain a motion to approve line item transfer number 1213-14, the amount of $4,500.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is funding request number 1213-15, $58,200.
This is the transfer to cover the heart and hypertension requests that we had earlier in the year, and it's from contingency.
Okay, so entertain a motion to approve funding request number 1213-15, the amount of $58,200.
So moved.
I'll second it. Any discussion?
Yeah, Ed, if I could just chime in for a minute. I like the idea, Tony, of trying to find this within the police department
Absolutely.
budget. I know the police department budget right now is running a little behind because of Sandy and because of some of these additional. So it's, I think my preference would be to move it from the police department now, but the timing isn't good. So.
Yeah, and I didn't want there to be confusion of exactly how much was,
Right.
because we have that liability out there. And,
Right.
yeah.
So anyway.
This has to be done.
Right.
Yeah,
There's no
We've
choice,
already
right?
started
Yeah.
paying.
But we'll keep an eye on that. We'll look to do
Exactly.
that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's all. Thank you.
Okay, so a motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is line item transfer number 1213-16, $7,000.
This is a transfer within the waste management area to cover additional stormwater testing that was mandated by the Connecticut DEEP, mainly at the Public Works Garage and Transfer Station. We have to do these sites additional times, a couple of additional times per year, as opposed to the original one time per year. So we have to have somebody collect the information, and we have to test it, and it's a big process.
So it's a state unfunded mandate that we have
Actually,
to
yes, it
absorb.
is.
Okay,
We have a few of those.
nice. Okay.
Okay,
No choice.
so I entertain a motion to approve line item transfer number 1213-16, the amount of $7,000.
So moved.
I'll second it. Any discussion?
I hate to prolong this.
No,
but,
sure.
This seems like a general professional service.
It is. That's where it's going to, right? Is it backwards? Yeah, it's backwards on the transfer. It should be 2 general professional services from the tipping fees. It's good catch. Good. Let's make sure you were paying attention.
It's all that snow shoveling.
tease me, don't tease me.
Sharpened his mind.
Don't tease me.
There's all
You know what?
muscles.
I have to say, it was my family and me that moved all that snow. I've been feeling terrible.
Yeah.
So your brain is much more alert.
Everybody helped.
You should feel terrible.
Except the darn dogs.
So we'll approve that line item transfer number
Yada, yada, yada.
1213-16, the amount of $7,000
How's your knee? There were.
from waste
Yada, yada,
disposal
yada.
tipping fee to general professional services.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
With that understanding, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Well,
Might have to take one of the certificates down, Tony.
Good
Passes
catch.
unanimously. Okay, line item transfer number 2013-17. We've already done this.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Line item trans,
Should be it.
again, and that's it.
Yep.
All right, so now we move on to authorize Malone and McBroom Woodbridge Transit Enhancement, Phase 2, Amendment number 1.
We, if you recall, a while back we had this is for a sidewalk grant for $200,000 in the business district to be located on Lucy Street. And the original proposal was on Bank Street, and it was proved to be too difficult based on the
This is not
topography.
floodplain, is it?
The reason why it was suggested to be moved was because of the inability to fit the sidewalk on the street without
Because the
major.
bank sits up high.
Yeah, because part of it's way up high, and then you've got the trees on one other side.
yeah.
It would have been too costly to relocate the sidewalk there. So,
Maybe a bridge.
so the other suggestion, which was through the town planning and zoning, was to go up Litchfield Turnpike. When you come to Lucy on the corner there, you can start going up Litchfield Turnpike. So,
Bank Street too.
right.
What
So
was
in
that
order,
now?
so in order to there needs to be an additional design services related to that.
Where in Litchfield? I'm sorry, I missed that. Where?
From Bank Street to Litchfield Turnpike. That's what it
Oh,
says
from
here.
Bank Street to Litchfield.
We're changing the location.
Right.
We had originally done all the.
It's not going to be on
Design.
Bank Street, it's going to Litchfield, because it's not from.
If you recall, when we originally went over this topic, these were our options.
Okay.
And Bank Street was picked at that time to give access to the stores in the back.
Mhm.
But because it would have been too costly to do it, and require some state approvals, we had to change the road design a little, and there was all kinds of problems with it. We decided that it would be easier and less costly to move the sidewalk to Litchfield Turnpike. To try to create to complete the circle from Lucy Street to Litchfield to Bradley, you know what I'm saying?
So there's
Follow
already
me.
a sidewalk
If you
on
build it,
Lucy
they will
Street.
come.
Right, we're talking about Litchfield Turnpike.
So it's just gonna take Lucy Street
Right.
down and then just connect to Litchfield.
Correct.
How far up, left or right?
To the left.
To the left, how
Bradley.
far up?
It depends how much money we have.
Okay, got you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll bid it by the,
I don't understand.
there's a grant for
I had to have
$200,000.
it in my mind.
You're gonna go left?
So how far does it go now? I mean, I know there's sidewalk in front of
That's right.
Bradley.
Oh, left.
No,
Dr. Martino's
down
office.
Lucy
And
Street,
kids
it's
stand
a
there to
left.
catch the bus.
Oh, Litchfield Turnpike, not on
Right,
Amity
yeah,
Road.
I
So
know.
would it
I had
run
to
up
do it in my
along there?
mind.
Who's walking
Along
on this side?
the
That's
same
what I
side
want.
as.
And it would extend it from the corner of Lucy
I
Street,
had to
Right.
draw it out.
Right.
Okay.
as far as we can get.
Right.
Approximately 500
Basically.
linear feet, it says there.
Yeah.
Well, that,
The attached map is not with this, it probably
It's
should be.
for very
Should be,
short
right, it should be,
walks.
yeah.
Yeah.
No
But
long
500
hikes on this
proposed
side.
warm-ups is for warm-up.
It's for work.
Dr. DiMartino's office and.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Correct.
Yep.
We could certainly
And I
present
dropped my
this.
child there.
And this
We will,
this is
uh,
all
Certainly do a
grant money.
presentation.
It's all grant, we already
It's
have
all
it, we're
grant
just
money,
changing the
we're not
design.
spending it.
Yeah, we're just changing
And
direction.
at the next meeting, we'll bring the map in to show you
I got you.
specifics.
No, I know where
And
we're
it's for
I'm a
additional
visual,
fees.
I'm a
too.
visual guy.
Okay.
Well, that's good, that's good.
Is that right?
And we'll have them come in and we'll have them present it to you.
Right, okay. So I would entertain a motion to approve Phase 2 Amendment Number 1 to the Woodbridge Transit Enhancements.
So moved.
Second.
Any
We'll
discussion?
trade, I don't care.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. That gets us to bids, first of which is a Ford 350 pickup truck, state bid.
This is identical to a pickup truck we purchased a few months ago. And you'll see there's a memo there where the town is requesting to purchase the Interstate Ford truck for a slight increase of $90.40 over the Crowley Ford truck. They are both state bidders, and these are the two bid prices. That's the request.
And the request is to award
To
the
award
bid
it to Interstate.
Interstate
Right.
Ford, even though the bid is $90.40 more.
Right.
The experience with Interstate Ford has been good.
Right.
So the police, or the public works,
right.
is recommending that the award the bid to Interstate Ford.
And we get a discount of $287 if we pay within 10 to 14
We do.
days.
Correct.
I
Matter
know
of
you'll
fact.
do that.
And it does include a plow, right? It says on there.
Right.
Plow as well.
Things
Right.
like that,
That's
yeah.
included.
That's appropriate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Should have done this at our last meeting.
Right.
So I entertain a motion to approve, or to award the Ford 350 pickup truck on the state bid to Interstate Ford, as outlined in the memo January 22,
Second.
2013. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is the steep,
No, what do you mean? I don't know.
you can take me, I'll do it.
All right, okay, make it in.
Yep. The next is the steep grant, police department resolution to accept award. You'll see that resolution there, and you have any comment on that, Tony?
I do, just that what we wanted to do is to, in order to prevent the possibility of this grant being taken during the most recent budget problems up in Harvard, it was suggested to us that we actually enter into a contract so that it's earmarked for this particular purpose as opposed to just an award.
It's committed, the state is committed to pay us this money.
Right, they'll commit to pay us this money. 'Cause-
So we were awarded the steep grant already with no designation, and now we're gonna designate it to the police department?
No, it was awarded through the police department.
Okay,
Only there
but-
was no contract to
All
do
Not
that.
enforceable.
Okay.
Right, it was not enforceable.
Okay, I understand.
This will,
This will become a contract with the state of Connecticut.
Love
exactly.
it.
And how
There you
long
go.
before we have to actually expend it?
I think it's
Well,
5 years.
5
isn't
years.
it?
We
Yeah.
have 5 years,
Yeah.
okay.
How much is the award?
For 500,000.
It's not chicken.
And we made it general
That's a
to,
good number.
very general to just
Renovating,
renovation of the police station.
So are we gonna be getting something from them again soon on
they're working on that
more
now.
detail, maybe at the next meeting, or?
I don't know if it'll be the next meeting,
Not sure
but they're
about
working
the-
on it.
but they're working on it.
Humes and Associates are working on it.
Okay.
Would 10% I see is set aside for architectural engineering?
Right.
Would that be payable at that early stage?
It would be.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
I can ask.
Okay. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the resolution that the first selectman be and here is authorized to accept on behalf of the town of Woodbridge a 2013 Connecticut steep grant in the amount of $500,000 to renovate the police department facility, and that the first selectman is hereby authorized to enter into and execute any and all agreements, contracts, and documents necessary to obtain said 2013 steep grant with the state of Connecticut.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. The next item are grants received. First of which is the grant agreement amendment, West River Field, number CSAP 2012-07.
This is an FYI. We had it changed from the irrigation to the changed the scope on it. Remember during the capital budget process we had this discussion. So we changed the scope on it from that to the to clay, essentially. You can see it says it in there in the description. And therefore, there's the issue came up when there was a request for additional funds for irrigation on the West River Field to complete the project, which would be the balance of the project with this grant. So in order to eliminate that as a budget item, we changed the scope of the grant, therefore not having to match to complete the project and not have the irrigation on the field.
This was state bonding, if I remember.
That's correct. Yeah.
So instead of
It was like a
putting in
$65,000 addition to the budget. I think that was the figure somewhere around there. Because this was a big project, $25,000 didn't cover all of the irrigation. So what we decided
It
was,
cost us another 65 to do it.
yeah, it was approximately 65,000. So
Which we don't have.
right. So it was decided that we don't really need the irrigation on the field. Instead, let's put this towards clay and other types of improvements.
okay, the two.
So we just have to spend the 25, we don't have to match.
There's no other match or additional funds required.
So which fields are they?
These will be done on West River.
West River Fields.
But there's 3 fields. So this is the 2 of them?
It says, it talks about 2 ball fields. One is a 70-foot baseball field and then the softball field.
Okay.
So the baseball field is probably a Little League field. Okay. So this is just that.
That's FYI, because we had that discussion with that meeting.
Okay. The next is Public Works Storage Building Improvements.
This is another FYI.
Yeah, and I just
FYI.
gave you the top letter
Right.
showing that
We have a fully executed agreement with,
fully
this,
executed agreement.
with the Department of Economic and Community Development.
Trying to lock in all our funds.
Yes.
Okay.
Before they go away.
Before they disappear, right?
Way to protect.
And there, we have, next is another award. We received a FEMA award of $150.58. Bring it to your attention. This is Storm Alfred, is it?
This is from last year at this
Yeah.
time, yeah. No, this is from,
Or is it
this isn't,
severe storm?
2011, 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. FYI. Then the next thing we have is a Swerock distribution, $14,080.20. See that check we got on January 23, 2013.
And going forward, you see it says this per ton, charge $20 per ton, correct?
Right.
Right.
I'll just comment, I went to a meeting of Swerock a couple of weeks ago and I'll comment on that in my report. State estimated charge for services, $2,151.24.
That,
Go ahead.
for the tax office to be able to work with the state. This used to be free, actually, and now the state starts charging us for delinquent motor vehicle tax collection services. Just FYI. It's in our budget every year.
And then next is the state budget estimated impact on Woodbridge.
Yep. Currently, the estimated impact on Woodbridge is a plus 33,915 of the governor's budget, which is you can see the shifting here in funding is an increase in town road aid of $120,000, but the elimination of the revenue sharing grant, which was just created about a year ago, if I remember correctly. Manufacturing, there's a couple other minor grants that are eliminated. The pilot grant is eliminated for the state-owned real property. This concept impacts some towns worse than others. Our ECS grant was increased slightly by $16,955. But all in all, we fared fairly well, actually.
I read in the paper where Bethany's was
Don't tell.
I think they
was
know.
no increase. Yeah.
Don't tell. They'll take it away.
So that was good.
Some areas,
No increase.
some areas that have a lot of state property, or
Right.
they're gonna hit me hard.
All right, and then next is the fire marshal payments to town.
An FYI that it's been paid fully by the fire marshal.
By the former fire marshal.
Fully reimbursed?
Fully reimbursed, yeah. We thank him for that.
And can I make a, I guess, a detour under fire marshal.
Sure.
Dr. Stella was here briefly to read his monthly report, but didn't address the fire safety code violations. Do we have any idea if they've begun to address those? They got a lot of.
He sent a letter requesting an extension, I believe. I think that's in your packet. And so they're working on that. I don't have all the details, but I know
Some of them were,
I believe
the
most of them were
dates
done.
were actually before they got
Yep.
the report, so it was hard for them to fix those things. But looking at it, it looks like at least he's tried to address some of them right away, and they're gonna need some money as well.
Yeah, the one that I believe is the issue is the pool, the door that
Doors
leads to the pool.
Yeah, it's
Right.
gonna require some,
That's the major one that needs the extension,
Yeah.
and some funding and some.
And we're looking into how to do that, how
Yeah,
to accomplish that.
I believe
So
most of the others have been.
we can ask them
Lighting
to
and
report on
stuff.
that in
Yeah.
our March meeting, March 6th.
The next meeting, right?
Yeah, and part of the need for an extension was that
Okay,
the
thank you.
deadline was prior to receipt of the notification.
Right.
that's what I just said, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry. I
It's
was-
okay. He said, how can I address it if it happened 2 days ago?
Right.
Okay, so make a note of that, Jerry, to have him report on that. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Next, we get to Town Council's report. There's a FOI decision in regard to the Conservation Commission.
Sure, you want to shoot it? Sure.
Do we have to do it in executive session?
I think we probably should do a little
Okay.
bit of executive session. Yes,
So, I'd entertain a motion to move into executive session pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 206B to discuss a freedom of information decision regarding the Conservation Commission. And invite everybody to the table.
Pending litigation.
So
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approved. Thank you.